So I recently finished Half His Age, Jenette McCurdy's new novel. She's writing novels now. And the first thing I want to talk about is the fucking weird ass marketing. So I got this book so that I could listen to it on a plane ride. I've started doing this thing where when I am on a long plane ride, I will find like a really short novella and then I read it over the course of the plane ride, and it makes me feel really, really accomplished and productive to be like, oh, I read a whole book on that plane. And I was looking through books and I was like, okay, I've got some fancy ones. And then I saw that Jenette McCurdy had written a novel, and I saw that it looked like absolute fucking horny trash. And I was like, trash novel. I'm gonna read the trash novel. So I want to start by talking about the marketing. First of all, the book is called Half His Age. Uh, no, no prizes for guessing what it's about. Yes, it's about a problematic age gap relationship. In particular, our protagonist is a girl named Walden, who begins a relationship with her middle-aged high school English teacher. And the thing that made me kind of interested in this book, the thing that made me like, wow, that looks fucking horrible. I have to read this book, is that the marketing is very horny. Like the marketing is trying to make you horny. The marketing is like, this is like a romance book that you're gonna jack off to. And I was like, that's horrible. Like, why? Who needs to be executed for producing this book, why was this made? I have to read it. And I don't know, the book isn't that at all, right? The book is something very different, and I guess publishers are just evil. I don't know, that's the only thing I can really chalk it up to. Like, I feel like publishers are evil people. And that they kind of know that, like, if they make the book seem horny, that will sell more copies. The other thing is it could just be like outrage marketing, and in that case, I mean, I guess it fucking worked on me. I saw this book and I was like, why is this book like glorifying pedophilia? Like, what the fuck is going on? I have to read it. So anyway, the marketing is a little bit bewildering. I had to write some notes because I've actually read this thing over a month ago, and I tried to do this video once before, and I just found that my like thoughts and feelings about the book were too complicated and multi-layered, and I just had so much to say about it, and it was all kind of mixed together in a way that made it very difficult to like actually produce a video. So the plot of the book is pretty simple. It's about like a girl in high school, and it opens with her having a really disappointing sexual experience with boys her own age, sets the stage for her getting molested, and she very actively pursues a relationship with her high school English teacher, and then the book like zeroes in on that relationship and what it means and all the ways in which it's like problematic and gross. And it's a really like tense, kind of yucky book from start to finish. If you like feeling bad, this book is good is for you. It's also really pleasantly written. I think that this material would be absolutely intolerable if not for the fact that Jenette McCurdy is like a good writer. She just has the sauce, and she has a very unique voice. She writes in a quite a particular way, and it's kind of funny. So this writer, Jenette McCurdy, was an actor on a show from my childhood called iCarly, and the style of the writing is very similar to like what I imagine the character from the show would be like if she wrote a book, which I think is very strange. It's a very strange experience reading this book and being like, this sounds like the kind of book that Sam from iCarly would write if she decided she was going to write a book about being a high schooler who gets molested. Yeah. Okay, so some other things. I've got some notes here. Some other things. I think it's really audacious how like positively unsexy and extremely gross this book is at all times. There are so many things that are just described in such detail that are like sexual but not at all sexy that it's like, oh, I, ugh. Like it's a funny contrast with the marketing, right? Because the marketing is like, this book will make you horny, and then like page one you're like, I will never be horny again. Sex is the most unsexy thing that there possibly could be. McCurdy is also completely unrelenting in her depictions of like how undignified it is for for her main character to be horny. Like her main character does just such horrible things out of pure horniness that it's like ugh, it's so yucky. Um, and funny too. Like the other thing that I think is hard to get across, like it's hard to explain in the abstract, is just how like extremely funny this book is. The material is really dire, but the prose is like just so well written and so like goofy. Um, Okay, I have to give you some examples of nasty shit that this character does. So she becomes infatuated with her high school English teacher, right? And she like at one point she like sneaks into his office when he's not there, and she like sniffs his chair and like sniffs the like the butt of the seat, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, you nasty teenager. Um, she sneaks into the bathroom during, well, not sneaks into, she goes into the bathroom during school hours so that she can jack off uh to Instagram photos of the teacher and his family. And McCurdy, like, okay, this gives you like a hint of the type of writing that McCurdy engages in here. She gives this scene where her character Walden masturbates in the bathroom and then comes out and then has like a conversation with someone and then leaves. And then the last sentence in that chapter is, "But first, I smelled my fingers." Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why did you write that? There's so many sentences that are just like, why did you write that? Um, which I think is like audacious. I mean, if I felt like being more sophisticated here, maybe if I could get my thoughts in order better, I feel like I'd have something kind of sophisticated to say about this particularly like I almost want to call it like feminist portrayal of sexuality in a way that is much more honest and thereby is like much less dignified. Like she presents the undignified aspect of sexuality far more often than the sexy aspect. And the other thing is, it's been a while, but I even though there's like so much sex in this book, I don't get the sense that McCurdy is at any point like trying to excite me. Like I think she is interested in sex because she thinks it's interesting and not because she thinks it's sexy, or at least that's the way that it comes across in the book. There's so much sex where you're like, wow, lot to unpack there. Like so much of it. So much of it. Um Okay, let's see. The other thing that I was really interested in is just like how cruel and twisted and evil McCurdy is with her characters. Like she just hits them and like ruins, particularly ruins Walden's life over and over again, and makes it like piles just like disappointment upon disappointment upon disappointment onto Walden's head in a way that I just find extremely compelling, especially as a writer, because I feel like I'm a big old softie with my characters in comparison to McCurdy. Like McCurdy is a real twisted fuck, and she is really able to like mess with her characters and make them suffer in a way that I just would never be able to. Well, I don't want to say never, but in a way that I am not able to. And the thing that I think the secret ingredient is like the glimmer of hope that appears and then turns out to be illusory, or even worse, turns out to have not been illusory, but it just slips through your fingers, right? The She twists the suffering in such a way that it's not like pure suffering, if that makes sense, right? There's always a glimmer of hope. There's always the possibility that something could change, and then it gets snatched away, and that makes these things so much more painful. The other thing that I think makes the suffering of her character Walden a lot more textured is that Walden is also kind of a piece of shit, right? So at one point in the novel, she breaks up. They like straight up start dating, right? She breaks up with her English teacher boyfriend and starts dating a kid her own age. And it becomes really clear in the relationship with this kid her own age that like she has essentially learned all of the like fuckboy techniques from her English teacher boyfriend and is now using them to like manipulate this poor guy. Literally the only character that is ever just in an unqualified way like nice to Walden is one that she sort of like manipulates and then throws away. And it makes it that kind of detail makes it so much it makes the suffering that Walden goes through much more like dirty and kind of nasty, right? Because you don't see her as a pure victim. Like McCurdy is too good at writing, too good at the shit to let Walden be a pure victim, right? She also victimizes other people. And another example that is like super duper nasty and that really, really like goes to this theme of not letting the character be a pure victim. She absolutely pushes the English teacher character, whose name I'm forgetting. She absolutely pushes him into the relationship. In fact, their first sexual encounter, I think, could fairly be described as rape, like her raping him, and um, and that's fucking nasty, right? Like that's so gross. Like I don't know, she is very interested in kind of twisting the knife emotionally, right? Not letting her character be a pure victim, even though she's going to put her through this like hellacious situation. Um, okay, great. Yeah, I think McCurdy is just amazing at that type of cruelty, and I think it really combines with the humor in a way that produces something that is very interesting and kind of different. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is I have in my notes interesting ending, but right now it's not really feeling that interesting to me. So you know what? If you want to find out about this interesting ending, then go and find out. Go and find out about it for yourself. For now, I want to talk about something else, which is this thought that I had as I was reading it, that it's like a little bit similar to Tolstoy, and I want to compare this to another book that I've read that is also like a fucking nasty pervert book where there's like lots of graphically described sex, which is Either Or, the sequel to Elif Batuman's The Idiot. It is also a book that is about like adolescent sexual experiences and how like fucking horrible and traumatizing they can be, especially for women. And that book explicitly compares itself to the writings of Leo Tolstoy, right? And the idea is that these are both sorts of like slice of life novels in which the everyday experiences that people go through are sort of mined for some sort of profound insight, right? And so the feminist point and the feminist critique here is why is it that Tolstoy gets to write books like Anna Karenina that are about, an affair, right? But somehow like if a woman writes a similar book that is about an affair, it is slotted in to our mind and our like libraries in a very different way, right? Like what the fuck? What's up with that? Like why is it that like it takes a man to come in and be like, oh, women be like this, and then that's classical literature, but somehow if you write about it as a woman yourself, that's something totally different. Okay, great. I had much smarter thoughts about this about a month ago, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them now. Um, Okay, I texted them to a friend of mine. So I said, it reminds me of Anna Karenina. I keep thinking of things that these characters should do, the ways that they're misunderstanding the world or behaving immorally, and how things would be much better for them if they thought and acted clearly. But I'm also like, wow, what a banal way of thinking. I'm so boring and judgy for reading this book and being like, actually, you should not start having sex with your married English teacher. And I think about how Tolstoy was aware of this problem as he wrote Anna Karenina, how he knew that moral dictates of the aesthetic life were disappointing, underwhelming. Oh, of the aesthetic life. He knew that the moral dictates of the aesthetic life were disappointing, underwhelming, and that if you just wrote a book about what you should and shouldn't do, then it wouldn't do anything for anyone. Nobody would want to read it. I don't know, I'm tired, but I think that it connects in my head to Kierkegaard's moral/aesthetic life concept. You can't really make a logical argument for morality. Ironically, you have to make an aesthetic argument instead. So yeah, I mean, I think it fits very similarly. Like it fits into this concept, right? Like I feel like I learn a lot about these characters and I learn a lot about this nightmare of heterosexuality by watching this like hellacious, like really, really horrible version of it. And I think it has a similar kind of like artistic problem and artistic approach to Anna Karenina, right? Uh, I suppose the ethos would be all healthy relationships are the same, but every unhealthy relationship is its own like beautiful fractal, right? So I feel like I really did actually learn a lot about like the human heart by reading this book, which is weird because it pitches itself as so low and so like not fancy and not elevating in any way. And then it also has prose that like contributes to that, right? Like the character really early on describes like popping her pimples in the mirror, and you're like, ugh. Just the first thing in a long line of descriptions that you're like, why did you put that in your book? What the fuck is wrong with you? Um, so yeah, I really struggle to come to like grand sweeping conclusions about this. One thing I will say is it is an absolutely blurst option for a book club. I think this book would be really, really fun to discuss with the right groups of people. So yeah, that's Jenette McCurdy's Half His Age. The cover of the book makes it look like something you shouldn't read, but the content is actually great. So I recommend going out and reading it unless you're, squeamish. Okay, that's all. Bye bye.